Whenever it says we're going live. There we go.
Now
Meeting
it's
is now
live.
streaming live. All right. Cool. It is going to be still set. It says still setting up, but I think on here it says going live, so we should be good in a minute or so, and I'll get this watch link. Whenever it says we're going live. There it is. Meeting is now streaming live.
All right.
Awesome. All right. Well, Andrea,
Cool.
thanks so much for joining today. Welcome
Thanks.
to the show. I guess it's becoming a show because we're doing it more regularly now.
It's absolutely a show. I so appreciate you inviting me. I'm really excited to be here.
No, I mean, I think out of our discussion we had a few weeks ago, I think that there's a lot that you can share with folks that they can start doing for themselves. There's always obviously a lot you bring to the table in terms of your skill set and your knowledge and how you help clients. But I think there's also a lot that they can do for themselves that we've talked about and can really share with them. So why don't we just kick it off and say, just for folks who are tuning in right now, Andrea is a business consultant. She's awesome. She's also in BNI like I am. And she and I had a chance to connect a couple times over the last few months. And we'll let her share a little bit about herself, but we'll also give you guys a chance to ask questions if you have them. Please go ahead and post in the chat, and we'll get them answered when we do the Q&A section of things. And if you can't tune in for the whole thing, no worries. This will be posted on YouTube after the fact. So Andrea, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everyone who you are and what you do.
Thanks, Drew. So my name is Andrea Dunathan. My company, as you can see, is Dunathan Consulting. I work with business owners to help them figure out what's next for their business and help them fix whatever is holding them back from the growth that they're looking for. That also involves right now a lot of pivoting and so forth because of COVID. And as you said, I think one thing you said is really important. Not everybody can hire a business consultant. So one of the reasons I'm excited to be on this show today is not only to talk about what I can do for people who are in a position to hire a consultant, but also to offer some tips and advice for people who maybe can't hire a consultant, but we still all face those same business challenges when we're trying to sustain and grow our businesses. So I hope this is helpful for everybody.
Awesome. Thanks so much. So tell us a little bit about what you're seeing right now. How do you work with clients generally, and then kind of what are you seeing, what have you been seeing over the last few months as trends, and what are some things people can expect in the coming new year, I guess?
I wish I had a crystal ball, right? I think what we can expect in the new year is that it's going to be unpredictable. And that can be a real challenge for people. But one thing I'll say I see from both large and small businesses is that people are realizing that this is the quote unquote new normal. We're in it now. So it's time to stop sort of waiting for things to resolve and go ahead, make plans for your business and just be ready to adapt, because we know that things are going to change quickly. I mean, right now we could all guess of a bunch of things that might change in the next 3 months, 6 months. So, go ahead, run your business, tighten things up, make the profit that you can right now and plan what you can do for 2021. And then be ready to adapt, because circumstances will inevitably change, and it's just going to be that kind of year. So that's not necessarily bad, I will say. There's a lot of people who are figuring out new ways to do things, new services, maybe new audiences for their service or product, maybe a new way to deliver their service or product. And those things can be really valuable, because even if things quote unquote go back to normal, like let's say the pandemic is over at some point in the future, crossing fingers, those new modes of delivery might become something that people really love, and that might be a sustainable thing long into the future. So think of it as investing in your business, think of growing your business, think of ways to make your business relevant going forward. I don't think I'm saying anything that people don't know already, but it's meant more as a reminder, I think. The other thing I'm seeing is there's areas of unexpected growth. So just to name a few, landscaping companies, they're going gangbusters. People are investing in their homes and their property, right? So those businesses are doing pretty well right now. Online conference management, it's boomed suddenly because people realize that it's not just a matter of putting it on Zoom. You really have to plan differently. Delivery services, right? I could go on and on. There's all kinds of businesses that are actually doing very well right now. So, I'm seeing some unexpected growth in unusual sectors.
Yeah, that's great. I think one thing you mentioned I want to point out and kind of call out a little bit is the idea about the uncertainty of the future and kind of getting back to new normal of some sort. I think it's important to acknowledge we're not necessarily going to get back to the way things were exactly like 9 months ago or a year ago at this point, right? Like it's adjusting to what's happened and adjusting in such a way that you're opening yourself up to business opportunities now, just the way things are right now, and see where you can make differences in your business and doing what you need to do. Because if you keep shutting the shop down, right, you're not going to make any money at all, right? There's no chance.
Yeah.
But if you're able to actually grow and build and continue building yourself up, that's where you're able to see the rubber hit the road, right? And make the difference.
Exactly. So, it's interesting. One of the things you and I talk about a lot is the power of your mindset in all of this, which is, I think, where your services come in. Really, this is rough right now. People are tired. This is difficult. It's not that easy, not knowing what's coming next. So, if you can really work on your mindset, talk to other people, try to stay positive, then I think there is a lot of potential opportunity. And it's tougher for some industries than others. I am not saying it's easy, believe me, for a restaurant or similar service, but I think a good attitude can't hurt no matter what you're facing. So again, easy to say, you might need some help. Right? And you could probably speak to that better than I can.
No, sure, absolutely. I mean, it's a lot of it's really just about the mindset, though, like you said, though, and it's about being able to say, okay, look, I'm going to double down on my business practices or what I want to do for my business right now, versus saying I'm going to hold back and not not spend. I'm not saying spend freely or go crazy, but there's certain things you have to spend on, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
marketing, whether it's making sure that your business is continuing on, and you're able to serve your clients still if they do come to you, or whether it's just a matter of just keeping the lights on in whatever it looks like for you and
Mm-hmm.
your right? So what are some things
Absolutely.
that you can recommend folks to work on right now that maybe that if for folks who are kind of trying to conserve and do that kind of work for themselves, what are things that you recommend that they still spend on or still allocate that money for?
It's money and it's time. I want to stress that it's your resources, right? And if you don't have cold hard cash, you still have time and energy, and you can put some of that time in. One of the things, and you kind of referred to this, is improving your business, right? So I think in the past, there are a lot of businesses that were maybe a little bit sloppy. Like they got a lead, they probably called it within 2 or 3 days, they probably followed up, they probably converted it, but they weren't really rigorous with it. Or when they were delivering services or products to customers, they were generally making sure the customers were happy, but maybe not a huge focus on it. So things were falling through the cracks a little bit, but the profit margins were good. It was fun. Now we're in a tighter situation, so this really is the time to review your marketing, sales, and delivery, that whole chain, and all the supporting services of your business that support that chain, and really make sure you're making the most of all of it. So if you get 100 new people noticing your business, how many of those can you convert to sales? Why are some of them not converting to sales? Are you forgetting to reach out to them or just too busy? Maybe you could automate some of that. Maybe you could get a part-time virtual assistant to help you with that. Maybe one of your staff could take it on, right? So you get those conversions, and then make sure that every customer feels really well treated, because a happy customer turns into repeat business and turns into referrals. No matter what your business is, those two things will happen. So how do you close that loop? How do you make sure the customer's super happy? And then how do you come back to them and say, hey, do you want to buy again? Or do you know someone else who could use this product or service? If you can tighten up that area, that whole chain, it's only going to benefit your business long term. It's something we probably all should have done before, but the pressure wasn't so high, right? So I think that's a really good place for people to start. And to think about all the things you do, like marketing is a really good example. There's a lot of things we do for marketing that seem needful. Like I have a blog, so I do my monthly blog post, and it just seems like I should definitely do that. But am I evaluating the return on investment? I'm engaging people on LinkedIn, right? They read the blog, they're happy, they like it. Are they then referring people to me? Am I reaching out to them and connecting with them more deeply? Am I making sure they know what services I offer and how I offer them, so that they know, potentially they have a friend who could use my services? So am I making the most of that marketing effort and turning it into dollars? Or is it just something I'm kind of doing? So looking at every aspect of your business and saying, what is this activity doing for me? Not just in marketing, in your financial management, in your IT tools, your like whatever part of your business. How are you doing things, and is it paying off for you? So being a little bit more rigorous throughout, I think, can be really helpful. And that's something you can do on your own. If you get a large business and you got cash on hand, it may be better to outsource that to a consultant to come in and really assess your business and see where the weak spots are. But if right now that's not a possibility, you can do that on your own, and just do a little bit at a time. Don't try to do everything at once. Just pick one area and take a look at it, and work through that, and then go on to the next area.
Yeah, and I think one thing you pointed out that I want to call out another thing you said, call it a couple things, but one in particular is resource. I said money, but I meant what I meant was resources. But you
Yeah.
called it out. It's awesome. Resources are time and money, right? And people as
Hmm.
well. If you have those folks,
Absolutely.
but you have time on your hands at least, right? If you have time and you have money and potentially people as well, make sure you're using those properly. And like you said, revisiting your workflows. This is if things are slow right now, it's almost a blessing in some ways because you can revisit stuff and say, okay, what's really working? Where am I
Hmm.
to streamline or to add things if I need to, or take things out when sometimes.
Hmm.
I had a client a few weeks ago. I was talking with him, and I was like, "Look, it's kind of a blessing in disguise, right? Because you found this issue that you wouldn't have found otherwise, because you're
Hmm.
able, you had the time to pay attention because things slowed down a little bit. And thankfully, he's still doing well enough financially that he can keep the lights on, so to speak. But he's able to look at that and say, okay, well, here's where our process kind of failed, right? Where he said he wouldn't have noticed them because he didn't have time to notice before, right?
Exactly. That's absolutely ties back to what I was saying about I maybe shouldn't have used the word sloppy, but a little loose, right? People were kind of letting things go on by because they were so busy. So this is a good time to reevaluate. And I'm really glad you brought up people because I have a really deep belief that most people at work are doing the absolute best job they can given the tools and information and resources that are at their disposal. So this is a really good time to take a look at your people and say, do they have the tools and resources they need to get their jobs done? Do they understand the importance of what they're doing in the bigger picture? Do their roles and responsibilities maybe need to shift a little? Do they have a skill set that I hadn't really thought about utilizing in my business, but I could put it to work right now? So there's so many ways you can make the most of your people, and people like being useful in the business. They most people enjoy working and seeing the benefit of their work, not just showing up and being a lump on a log, right? So the more you can engage your people during this time, they may have some great ideas. They might be able to take on something that's very helpful to you. They might have a better way, an idea of a better way to do something in your business. So, pulling together as a team, I think is really important right now.
Definitely. So one thing I wanted to tone in on, a couple of folks have asked me this question in the last few weeks, and actually months, but we live in DC, in the DC area, obviously. So
Mhm.
federal contracting is a big, big industry here, right? And
Yes.
even though they are remote, they're still going on, they're still working, right? And
Hmm.
so it's done. So what are some things you can talk to about folks, or talk about for folks who are looking to get into that space, or who may be already in that space that they can kind of maybe leverage for themselves, or the processes and that kind of thing? Just
Hmm.
considerations around the federal space right now, given everything going on.
Well, I mean, I hate to say it's kind of similar to what I've just said, but let's talk through that. Right now, I think the federal government is still very much in spending mode, right? I think at some point, there's a possibility the economy is going to shift, right? There's a possibility that the federal budgeting process is going to prioritize different things because they're putting a lot of money into aid for businesses and for people like health response and so forth due to COVID. So things are going to shift. We know that. So it's similar to what I said in that, hey, look for those new opportunities. Maybe a service or product you have to offer could be beneficial in this new world for the federal government as the government gets into things that it didn't used to do. The government didn't used to distribute like masks on a massive level, but I bet that's going to happen starting in, it's probably already happening, but it probably will happen even more starting in January, right? Just thinking
Mhm.
practically. So, is there something you could do around that? Or that's a really evident example off the top of my head, but I bet there's a lot of ways that federal spending is going to shift. So trying to look ahead, there are resources actually with the federal government. They try to project what they're going to need in future. And so you can access that and start planning. Do I see anything they might need in future that the Fed think they might need in future that I think I could provide? And then just doing your due diligence. Like if you haven't done business with the federal or state government or county government before, look into how to do it. Get yourself registered, get yourself ready so that when a proposal comes out that you want to bid on, you're in place to bid on it. You don't have to say, oh, but I'm not registered in sam.gov and I need my DUNS number and I need, right, all this paperwork and stuff. I will say a lot of these government entities, and you shouldn't just think about the feds, think about state and local, right? A lot of them have, a serious procurement process. It's not going to be just throw together something and throw it and hope it sticks. It's really doing your due diligence and being rigorous and being careful. And you're not going to win every one, but you can up your odds, right? There's a lot of free advice through the Procurement Technical Assistance Centers. Those are PTAC, PTACs. Um, those are funded by the government. You can get help there. You can get help from SBA. You can get help online. A lot of that help is free. So, in terms of getting into that space, that's mostly what I've talked about. In terms of federal contractors, I really think it depends on your department, don't you think? Like, if you're doing something for HHS, I bet you're busy right now. Some of the other departments, like I said, maybe the funding will shift. I don't know. Have you heard? I haven't heard a whole lot about what's going on with the federal space. Have you heard much?
No, I mean, honestly, I think like you said, that their focus is very much on the pandemic right now, and so they're looking at economic stuff as well as the healthcare stuff right now. Those are the big things, But they are still spending on military. They're still spending on. I mean, they're necessary things they're always going to need, like IT services, right? Like those project management folks and those folks on the ground doing the work. They're always going to need those kind of services, the baseline stuff. But like you said, looking at and anticipating what their future needs might be. I think the PTACs are a great resource for sure. And then checking out the different websites that are available for state and local governments as well as federal, and of the locations that they may need services, more specific services that are not as obvious. Right? A lot of contracts will come out, and I'm blanking on the name of the website right now, but there's like a federal website for contracting, and I'm trying to think what it was.
Oh, used to be FedBizOps, and they renamed it. Is that what you're thinking? Yeah, I forget what the new name is, but I think if you Google FedBizOps, I can take a quick look.
They renamed it. Yeah, exactly. So that's a great resource there, because I mean, it's not just in the DC area. They have stuff at all across the country. Right? I mean, all across the world sometimes.
Yeah, and now a lot of that stuff is able to be delivered remotely, right? Like, that's actually a benefit. It has moved. I'm just looking at where it's gone.
Sure.
It's known as contract opportunities under beta.sam.gov. Huh. I'll put this in
a little bit less of a catchy name than FedBizOps, but
yeah, check this site out. It seems to be giving a lot of frequently asked questions and stuff. So that's a good.
Cool. I'll post that in the description below as well, along with everything else, other links we talk about. We actually have a question from the chat from our good friend Nahid. So hey, Nahid. What are your thoughts about hiring someone, even if it's not the best time financially, but knowing it will create longer term opportunities?
I think that's a really well-worded question. If you can see that having some hours of somebody to do a specific thing will create new revenue in future, then yeah, just project that out and maybe run your projection of new revenue by somebody who is a bit of a skeptic, right? We are business owners. We have to believe in our own dreams. So we tend to think very positively. If I hire this person, they're going to generate $10,000 in revenue every week. It's going to be great. Run your logic by somebody, and if it passes that test, or if they raise questions that you hadn't thought of, right? Like, so kind of test the idea out on some people before you commit your money, and then there's some ways to hire less with less risk. If you hire someone as an employee, you're incurring. There's a lot of laws that then come into effect. Here in Montgomery County, Maryland, for example, there's an earn sick and safe leave requirement if your person works 8 hours or more a week. So suddenly you have to track that, right? There's nothing wrong with that. You just have to be ready to track it. You have to get workers' comp and so forth. So think about, maybe you hire a virtual assistant through a company, through a temp agency, through a virtual assistant company. Maybe you do something like that. Where the cost per hour is a little higher, but if you don't need them anymore or whatever, it's just very little paperwork for you. So you can kind of get into it, kind of test the waters, see how it goes. Also think about, do you want to outsource to an expert? Like, if you're talking about marketing, do you want to outsource to a marketing company to do your marketing for you? Or do you need an assistant who will do whatever tasks you throw at them? And like I said, just look at your return on investment and, talk that over with somebody. It can be a very good idea. So don't shy away from investing. What you want to make sure is you're investing some money in this. Make sure that investment's going to pay off for you. Make sure it's not just an expense going out the door.
I love that. Yeah, I fully agree with that. I'll also add that there's two things I want to add. One is considering what kind of tasks you want them to do, right? If you're going to hire someone, make sure you're very clear on the roles and responsibilities that they're going to assign for that person.
Yes.
Right. And so assign, and it also depends on their expertise level, like you said. If they're going to be more of an admin type person, then make sure you're giving them admin tasks. There's a value in freeing up that time for yourself, right? I'd say the $10 task versus $100 tasks, right? The $100 task is one you need experts for, either yourself in your space or a marketing professional, for example, or like an IT professional, that kind of thing. Those are probably the $100 tasks. But the $10 tasks are the ones you're posting on social media or doing, add more admin type work or things that really is going to may take some time, but that's time away from your professional expert tasks you can do. And so those are considerations I would say around that. And then the other thing is, I know some business owners that I've worked with have been, like you said, we're very positive people, right? We're optimists when it comes to our business, and we're like,
we have to be
amazing ideas and what things we want to do to grow this business and make it amazing, and just make sure you're not doing too much too fast, right? If you do try to go as big as you go as possible, like go to your 10-year dream in 3 months, you might end up being way, way, way too big, right? I mean, Google didn't get to the point where it's at right now by starting with everything with Gmail and everything like that, right? They started with just a search engine, did that amazing, and then leveraged that into all the different things it does now. And so I think pacing yourself a little bit in terms of, like you said, I think that's great advice about talking to a skeptic or someone who's kind of can challenge you on stuff and really kind of make sure that you pass that muster. That's awesome. So yeah.
Yeah, there's something you just said, remind me too. If you can plan for growth, right? Like what I hear a lot of people saying is, oh, if I had someone to take this admin work off my plate, I could devote these hours and make all this money. So to them, I say, great. Do you already have a marketing and sales process that is feeding you business that you can't handle right now? If not, then work on that first, right? You need to get to that point where you have enough leads coming in that you're going to have new business, and that freeing yourself up really is going to turn into sales. Otherwise, you're freeing yourself up on hope. And, you can do that. And I'm not going to say no. I'm just saying be eyes wide open about what you're doing, about the risk that you're taking. So, I think people don't, especially I think we both know a lot of independent consultants. People don't necessarily love the marketing and sales part of the business, but it's crucial. You're not going to get any actual contracts unless you do your marketing and sales. So if you have that down and you're generating a lot of business, that's when you can hire someone. And one thing I'll say to people is get ready to hire, and then tell yourself, okay, when I clearly have enough contracts or enough sales in my grocery store or whatever, when those sales hit a certain point, then I know it's time for me to hire. And that way your motivation is really toward building up your sales. And you're going to get relief. You might have to work really hard for a little while. When you hit that point, you've got those signed contracts, you've got the daily revenue in your grocery or whatever it is. You can hire with a free heart because your sales are going up, you're in good shape, and the person will take some of that stuff off your plate.
Absolutely. And I think that I want to quote one of my colleagues who was in marketing, and he was telling marketing and sales, and he was telling me, do it yourself first. Always do it yourself first for the sales and marketing piece, because you got to train that person eventually to do it. They have to get training on eventually. You might as well be the one to train it, because also you'll then know what the challenges are that you can help them, right, in your particular field of whatever you're doing. Because if you don't do it first, you're not going to know how to train them. And so
I think that's a good point.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I mean, like you said, it is going to be a little bit of a grind in the beginning, but there's value to that, right? And working through that and knowing the ins and outs of your business. So awesome.
Yep.
Thanks for the question, Nahid. Great question. So as we're kind of winding down a little bit here, I think we're almost at the 30-minute mark here, but I want to give you a chance to kind of share a little bit about yourself and kind of, what services you offer and how you work with the clients typically, and what kind of folks you work with generally. So you want to tell us more about that?
Thank you. I appreciate the chance. I work with a lot of quickly growing businesses. Those businesses that are growing fast often have some growth pains, right? Like the influx of new customers can really shake up your organization, and what was working before for you may be starting to crack or crumble under the pressure of those additional clients. So that's where I come in. I can help with all kinds of stuff. Like I just signed a new client and going to help them hire a part-time admin assistant. I'm going to help them look at their current roles, especially the internal management, and see how can we clean this up? Who should really be doing what? And then look at the processes they're using, because right now everything is done ad hoc. Like a problem comes up, somebody just invents a way to deal with it, and then they kind of keep slogging forward until the next problem pops up 5 minutes later. So they're putting out fires all over the place, right? So we're going to look at and say, how could we do things consistently to prevent problems? And so that everybody knows, oh, Joe is doing this, Sally's doing that, everyone knows what's going on, and it's less stressful every day at work. We're going to take a look at their payroll system, which is somehow the system they're doing timekeeping in and the actual payroll system are not talking correctly. So the pay is coming out wrong. That's a major issue. Their bookkeeper is doing the best they can, but I'm going to work with the bookkeeper and sort out what's going on with their systems. We want to make sure their CRM is getting good use. We're using, you can see, I'm giving examples, but I'm helping them in many, many areas of the business. Just get things running smoothly again. When you grow so fast, it's really common for things to start falling apart. So that's a really common person who might hire me is the owner of that business, maybe 5 to 50 employees, growing fast. Then there's some people, like not a lot of solos hire just because it's expensive to hire a consultant, I'm not gonna lie, right? Mm-hmm. But I work with a law firm, for example, where the lawyer's billable rate is much higher than mine, and she has work coming in. So if she can bill her time instead of worrying about the admin, it's going to be beneficial. So she's happy to pay me to set up some systems and processes to save her time and allow her to do that billable work. So I'm working on that with her, that type of thing. I do free consults. So one thing I offer to a lot of people is, if in doubt, like you're not sure if you really want to hire a consultant, go to my website, which is right there. Oh, well, it's jonathanconsulting.com. And, sign up for a free consult. It's 30 minutes. It can't hurt, right? I'm not going to sit there and sell. I'm going to try to give you the best advice I can for 30 minutes. And if it seems like hiring me is what you would like to do, then we'll go on and talk about that in more depth. But if you're not really interested in hiring me and you just want some free advice, hey, take advantage. I'm not going to mind that at all, because I feel like it just benefits the whole community to help small businesses get started and grow and think sensibly about how they're going to grow their business. So that's kind of what I do. I work hourly. I don't know what else to tell you. What else should I tell you?
No, I think that's a great summary of what your business is and who you work with and that kind of thing. Because, I mean, clarifying what kind of business consultants do, I think helps a lot of folks to understand, because the work we do is not necessarily concrete, right? It's very very abstract. It seems like it's kind of up in the ether, and it's very much kind of working through processes. It's not necessarily tangible right away. What the work do we do? Yep. So I love hearing more about that and helping folks understand, kind of to comprehend exactly the ins and outs of what we do. So yeah. No, that's great. And so folks can reach out to you. Obviously, your email address is there, your phone number is there, and I'll put your website in the description below.
Okay, thanks.
There as well. But as we're closing out here, any other questions from the folks in the audience? I don't think so. I think we're good to go. But give you one more chance, Naheed or anyone else.
I have one more tip that I noted down. I was like, I should say this, sure, if you don't mind.
Oh, please go.
One thing right now that can be really helpful as a DIY, do-it-yourself kind of thing is really put down, what is my priority this week for me to do for my business? What is my priority this month? What about this quarter? Like, keep those goals really fresh in your mind, look at them every morning, and just kind of focus yourself. Because I think right now we are all so distracted. There's so much going on the news, in our daily lives, personal lives, everything. So kind of starting each day by focusing on, what do I really need to be doing today or this week or this month, can really make a big difference. It sounds very little, but taking 30 seconds and reading your goals has a big impact. So I wanted to share that tip.
That's awesome. No, it's a great tip. It seems kind of straightforward, but it's a lot of people don't do it, honestly. It's an easy one. It's an easy win, right?
Yeah.
So that's great. I love that. Andrea, thank you so much for coming in today, in the office.
Virtually. Yep. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, this has been great. I mean, you gave some awesome nuggets for folks to pick out there. And if you guys want to reach out to her, please feel free to. Andrea's great. I've done a bunch of one-to-ones with her, and she can get some really good value. So, and 30 minutes essentially for free advice is more than worth it. So
exactly.
Andrea, thanks so much. We'll talk again soon. And let me go ahead and end this stream here.